on focus. See me, I'm a shooter. I'm left-handed. I'm a shooter. So
You like a blue canard with black?
Ginobili.
Ginobili's left-handed? My favorite
Yeah,
is
Ginobili and James Harden put together.
but I mean, like, and if you try to do another ISO,
Count your moves. The first time it doesn't work because you fumbled the ball. Boom, boom.
so
Two,
that's 3 seconds.
3 or 4, yeah. So now how many seconds do you have to score?
4 seconds.
4 seconds.
So 1, 2, 1, 2.
Wow,
I'm
you
but,
nice.
yeah.
Double team, then you gotta find somebody to pass it to.
I'm
Shot
a
clock
dimer.
violation.
I'm a dimer.
But what if no one's open? Or what if you don't see them? Like, what if the defenders are taller and you just like, oh, you got 2 seconds left. So, what I'm saying is, with them 8 seconds, don't dribble yet. Think about who's about to come and help, and then do your thing.
Sauce them up.
Cause it's not the first person that you worried about.
I only fell one time, and it wasn't even bad. I just touched the floor.
Oh, that's bad.
No, like compared to what you did to that other dude, it's not bad.
He touched the floor, but he was like kept going. Cause I don't think you saw it, but when I did a step back, I did a hezzy, but he was falling, so I just picked it up. I did a hezzy like I was about to go, and that made him keep going. I don't know, you just gotta think about it.
That piece is good.
What is it?
Uh,
Domino's?
no, it's some specialty pizza.
Specialty.
Yeah, it's some, no, it's good.
What
It's
was
a
it?
big on slice too.
Oh yeah, no. Okay. If they're big, I mean they're thin. Where's my Gatorade though?
The back of my head.
Hmm? Let's see it. Let's see stuff on camera.
It's so weird for me.
Oh.
I never looked at my head when my dad.
they tried to throw me in that a couple times. I ain't like it.
Well, wait, what was your best 200?
My best 200. I ran what was it? 22.9. That was my best 200.
My friend, he's like really good. He was like a 30 or 40 or
What
30.
kind of pizza do you like?
One's the sausage and the other is like a veggie pizza. Veggie pizza good.
My friend runs like a 45 or 35. One of these. He's really good though. His name's Drew.
What
His
is
name's Richie.
What year is he?
Oh, not
He's
the
an
name
eighth
now.
Maybe
grader.
or-
Nobody
It's
will
just really
respond.
fast.
The one person who responded to me, he was gonna have some pizza,
100 times.
but
Not
they had to open
zero.
they had to make it.
Yeah, I got injured sophomore year. I injured my leg sophomore year of high school. I wasn't really able to run after that. So
What'd you hurt?
my rectus femoris, it's a bone in my quad. It like popped when I was running at nationals sophomore year.
No, let's go ahead
Here?
and get him.
No, of high school.
People can see it. See how we set up.
Did you
I might have
finish?
another light.
Yeah, I finished. I was like limping through the rest of the
You're
season.
recording it, right? Okay,
I
then
was
we'll go
gonna
back
take
and
notes.
edit it.
My best 800 times was like 251.
251?
Record it wherever you need
That's
to.
good. That's not bad. I think mine.
Okay.
I ran a two. What was it? Two.
I like it
Was
recorded
like
somewhere so we can edit it.
208, 205. Before I stopped running.
What was your? Wait, you
Can
said
I go ahead and get
you
you
did
seated?
400?
Yeah.
What was your?
Okay.
40. No, 40 was a
Yeah, they've been here. It's only three.
now 50.
I'm the fourth.
On there.
I'm not really a guest though.
Thank you. 6. I don't know how to do that.
Just keep going at it. My first 2 years running track was terrible. It was bad.
My coach always say that that if you run in practice, you get faster. So slow, so I don't practice.
What order do you have the supers in? Doesn't.
Always do it. You can always do it 100%.
I don't.
Practice 100%.
Okay, cool. So
Perfect practice.
so it's Eric. Is it Eric first? Eric. Okay.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. Terrell. Eric.
Yeah.
Errol. Okay. I may not be on the set though. Oh, okay, I'll be on the set. No, I'll just be on the set. I'll go ahead and, I wasn't gonna be on the set, but I'll be on the set.
For real? I mean,
Yeah, I'm gonna sit here though.
Okay.
Just switch me and Earl. That way I can be closer so I do not have the screen.
where do you want to be?
Right here.
Oh, okay, okay. So you and then Errol.
Yeah.
Is that the way you are? Okay. And I hope that's okay. If it's, I
That's
know
great.
it's
No,
kind of.
no. Is there any way to put a TABJ thing on there? Or
Yeah, I've got a lower third. It might look a little wonky, but you know,
Right,
I
'cause we
don't
need to
have one made.
Like,
I don't have one made. Tell you the honest truth, I came in on Thursday. I'm
I
still.
know. I got. I just.
So keep it 100.
I just got hit.
Yeah. In other words, yeah.
Yeah.
On my phone or what?
I was gonna put up one of y'all's logos.
Yeah. If you just take the TABJ logo and put it in there, or put it on top of that.
I don't have it. What I was saying is I wasn't able to download it and put it in the other day, and I don't think I have time to do it this time.
All right.
But I do have, a lower third that does say it, so I can put it like, I can put it up when we come to you guys. I can put up the lower third that says NABJ, is it Black Male Initiative?
Yeah,
or-
Black Male Initiative.
Okay.
Okay, I need Eric. Who's got mic? I'm trying to get time. It's not, I'm gonna produce it, man. It's all about you.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, cool.
All right,
Go
1.
ahead and plan it and set it all.
Oh.
Okay, set it up like this.
Okay, no problem.
Hey, Brett,
Is Brett, are you on your mic
where's
though?
your program monitor?
If you can probably put that outside your pocket.
Where's my, is it the one that's facing?
Yeah, it's a big one on the floor. That's the one.
Want to come through or? Yeah, it's up to you.
But let me see. Let me do something real funky.
It's right here. You should
There we go.
You can clip it where you feel comfortable.
Oh, yeah, Miles was supposed to show up for audio. Somebody's
Yeah, that's
phone.
mine.
You should probably get that closer to you. Okay, let's see, mic 1 maybe? Hey, Chris, you put, 1, 2,
3 over here.
you're 3?
Uh-huh.
Okay. And Brett, you're 4, I guess. Sorry, Chris, I don't mean to redo what you've done.
Yeah, I got 4.
No, I didn't know exactly where to clip it on. I thought it was
You're good.
Oh, let's do it.
Yeah. Probably be a lot easier for you, huh?
Okay. See, I would've got Sennheiser anyway, so.
And did you gentlemen sign in? There was a little sign-in sheet going on.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, good, cool.
Look away, look away, look away.
There we go. Oh. Oh, it's fine. I'm just trying to make a little loop at the bottom.
Oh, okay.
But it's not going to cooperate with me, so. That's close enough for me. Oh, Brett, you got yours right in the middle. Good. So, how many people are we expecting to be out here?
This is it. So, I told you that they didn't call me back and I didn't know how to reach you, so.
You did tell me that. I thought maybe there were a couple more people.
I was hoping there was gonna be a couple more. I even tried to call this morning to get a few more people.
Yeah, because you see, I have a mic set up here for people to come and ask
Well,
questions.
they can ask a question, or even your guys, your camera guys can ask
Oh,
questions.
okay. All right.
So they can ask questions too.
Okay.
Okay.
So
we'll use them as our guys.
okay. So what we're gonna have to do then, guys, because I was expecting some more crew members as well.
Okay. See, we were both expecting more, but we got what we have, and we're good because our guests are here.
Yeah.
So we'll make it work, just like we did last year.
We'll make it
Had
work.
2,000 views last year.
All right. Okay.
Wow.
So, yeah, and we had the UNC studio set up last year,
Wow.
and it was like 5 of us, maybe 6,
Um,
and then Gail showed up.
Are the mics on already?
Yeah.
On power?
Oh, so that just went over live. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So everything we are saying is going out live over the world.
Okay.
So hey, what are you gonna do? So let's see. Chris is going to be. I guess Chris, if you wouldn't mind doing camera 1, and you said you'll do 3,
Yes, ma'am.
okay? And then I'll probably need you in there with me. Yeah, because I'm gonna need somebody to watch audio levels, and also, you know, we were gonna change name supers. I might be able to reach over and do that. I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out. So everybody did sign in, correct?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
hope so.
I
Yeah, you guys, my guests, did y'all sign in?
Yes, I did.
Okay, good.
Thank
The students sign in?
The little students?
Yeah,
Oh,
these are
yeah.
students. They're students. They should sign in.
Okay.
They might not be college students yet, but hey, we want to get them young, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yes, we want to get them young. Okay. So Brett,
Yo.
are you going to like be a mediator? Is that how this is gonna work?
Yeah.
Okay. So Brett's like, yeah, but you'll be in the middle. And your
I'll be Malcolm in the middle, yeah. I'll be moderator in the middle.
4, 3. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So I think we're almost ready to start.
Good. Let's go.
Good.
Let's get this party started.
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna get this party started, so.
Just let me know when you're gonna start rolling, please. Good. Yeah, put your headset on. Oh, either that or let's just turn that puppy down.
Turn it down.
Yes, sir.
All right, the nerd in me
Mic
wants
check
to turn
one.
on.
A B C D E F G H I J K L M N O P Q R S T U V W X Y Z.
Where's the volume control on that puppy?
Got the green light on. Got the switch on.
Yeah, wow.
Got 3 bars on the battery.
Oh, we good.
A B C D E F G. Hello, this is Corell Sampson. Aggie Pride.
What?
I know. That's a brave man right there, man. He's brave.
Behind enemy lines.
Right there. Brave guy.
As do I.
Although I did go to that Spectrum Reach event. That was really good.
Oh yes, yeah.
With,
Yeah, mic check 1 2 1 2. A B C D E F G. Good.
Are you talking to me? All right, you want me to speak? All right, I'm speaking, and I'm saying hello from the NABJ, Triangle Association of Black Journalists, Black Male Initiative Project.
Wow. That's good.
Did that work?
Now that I know who I'm here for. I didn't know what I was here for. Welcome to the Sports Op. This is D.L. Reese. Each and every morning we rock and roll with you guys from 6 to 9 a.m. We have a lot of fun, enthusiastic, and energy each and every day. That's what we do.
The smartest sports show on television.
This is true. We got, what, 2
And
engineers?
the funniest.
2 engineers and a couple of lawyers.
Yeah.
All talking sports.
Yeah, when you first started, it was like really funny because you had 2 engineers,
Yeah.
Princeton economists,
Yeah.
and 2 lawyers,
I know.
all talking about sports.
I know. Kind of weird.
And it was fun, and all y'all did was laugh for like 3 hours.
It's good therapy.
It was great therapy. It still is.
Yeah.
It's just that it was Saturday morning, and like, where else were we going to get that
Oh,
from
yeah,
Saturday
you're
morning?
right.
That shit was. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
It
you
was
said it
funny,
right.
man. I'm telling you, I still like. I kind of missed the Saturday format because y'all just like cut totally loose.
Yeah, we
And it was
figured-
middle of the day, so I was like awake.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. I understand.
So I'm used to being behind the camera, so this is
How far are we away there?
foreign territory.
Not to rush, but rushing. Can I go sit down now? Yeah, I'm going to go sit on.
Same
She
thing
ready to
with me
roll?
being on panels. I'm used to asking people questions.
Mhm.
Print journalism. So
Right,
it's
right.
Like, asking me questions. I'm like,
Okay.
this is weird. Yeah.
You ready?
Andy Week.
It's good, man. I've been there 13 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been there for a while, haven't I? Yeah.
What up, fellas?
All right.
That's up.
Thought I'd join you since, they put an extra chair
Uh-huh.
out. So,
1, 2, 3.
is that for the gram?
Yes. And for Errol's gram too.
That's for Rose Graham too?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't know how to work a droid.
Oh, now we're going to get the droid and iPhone
Here we
battle?
go.
Next thing you know, we'll hear about Pixel.
You want that?
How to do it.
That's okay.
You want this in the shot?
Huh?
You want this one? Just
All right.
Stand by.
Yeah. We just relax, man. This is like brothers having conversation, because
Okay.
the whole concept of this is just really, trying to encourage people to go into this crazy business that we're in.
Right.
And so we just want to have a conversation. That seems to work really well. And, just do it like that, and then we'll post it later.
Okay.
But we're going to be live. We're going to be Facebook Live.
Definitely.
Oh, it's Facebook. Okay.
We're
Cool.
going to do Facebook Live right there.
We're ready.
All right. Hey.
There we are. Welcome to the 2019 version of the NABJ, Triangle Association of Black Journalists, Black Male Initiative Project. Today, I'm joined by 3 young men that are in this business, and we're gonna have a conversation today. And these 3 young men represent different parts of the industry. We have Karel Sampson on the end from Spectrum News. He's an executive producer, and we want to encourage the young men to go into producing because it's a gateway to management. We also have a journalist, otherwise known as a writer with the Indy, Mr. Eric Tullis. And he's been at the game for a long time, and he does what a lot of young people in my class especially want to do, entertainment and culture reporting. And then on my end, this man has a sports show, but more importantly, he owns the sports show. And so that's why we have Earl Reese from the Sports Shop. And he partners with Capital Broadcasting.
Yeah.
And we'll hear a lot more from him. And we hope that you're joining us Facebook Live for TABJ's page, and also YouTube Live for North Carolina Central Television Studio. And we're coming to you from the campus of North Carolina Central University in their brand new television studio, which is funded by Title III. See, I got that in there for you, Felicia and Lakeisha, and anyway. So, fellas, the whole idea of this Black Male Initiative is really spurred because more of us are leaving the newsroom or not coming to the newsroom. And it's important for us to be seen that we actually are doing things, because there's that old saying, you can't be what you can't see.
Exactly right. Yeah.
So I was thinking, like, I've known all 3 of you for a while, and we work hard at this game, and we're in different parts of the game. So one thing I think is important is, how did you, in the short version, what made you want to get into this thing we call journalism media?
For me, it began just with my dad. He was always watching the news. My high school had a radio shop, so I did radio and Sports Center. It was my goal to be on Sports Center. Yeah. Don't have the face for TV. So behind the scenes, my mentor, Anzio Williams, he was executive producer in Cincinnati at the time. He was I went to A&T. Anzio was in the alumni page. My dad said, call him up, and went to visited at a television station there, WLWT in Cincinnati. Anzio took me in like he knew me forever and said, we need people behind the scenes. It's not about in front of the camera, it's behind the camera. That's where the power is. And
the irony is that Anzio, even though he went to A&T, promoted one of our students from North Carolina Central to producer in Philadelphia. Correct. So it's that brothers looking out for brothers kind of thing, like each one reach one. Eric.
So my journey started in college. I was working at the college radio station at the time, and I was also an English major. And
by the way, which college was this?
The University of Kansas.
Okay.
In Lawrence, Kansas. So I was an English major at the University of Kansas, also working at the radio station, and I wanted to find a way to fuse the 2 things together. And I was also writing for the college newspaper, and the only Black person writing for the college newspaper. And I knew that we needed more representation, and so I was able to fuse my English major and my music interest with also representation on the college newspaper. And that's how my journey started, and then I just went up and up and up from there.
Okay. Yeah. Earl, because you have
the mine is really different. I'm not a journalist, never claimed to be one, but I played football in college. I played sports most of my life, and even in high school, I always wanted, we used to play these games with being casters and things of that nature. But I never thought something I'd be interested in. But when I first met Eric, who we worked together during the NC Pro-Am,
okay.
That's where the opportunity came about, because I was always a talk show buff. I listened to talk shows all the time, sports talk shows all the time. But during the Pro-Am, which was a major deal that was going on here on campus here in North Carolina Central, a lady by the name of Linda Greenwood walked up to me and asked me, would I be interested in having lunch with her? we had lunch. She wanted me to sponsor. She had a radio show, a small radio show. She wanted me to, was interested whether or not I would be interested in working on her radio show, or not working on it, but sponsoring some things. We had lunch. The next day she called me and told me that her guy that was running her sports talk show had a mild heart attack.
Wow.
And would I be interested in filling in for him? I'm like, who, me? So, you know, but later on that day I had like a couple of guys, NBA legends, and a couple of college Hall of Famers on the show. She was like, wow.
You can mention Phil's name.
Okay, Phil Ford. I had Rashi Waters on there with me, and a couple other guys, and Charles Barkley. So it's like, wow, you know those guys? Yeah, these are just my guys. We're hanging out right here. And we did the show. She asked me to come back the next week and the next week, and it kind of took on from there. We kind of linked up with Capital Broadcasting, who wanted to bring a different flavor to their flavor stations over there, and that gave us the opportunity to get on their platform, and the rest is history. That's how we got started. Yeah.
Okay. What are some of the things that, like you mentioned, Anzio. So could you talk about how important it is for other people to help and maybe help guide in your guidance, especially at the early part of the process?
It's instrumental. It's Anzio, you know, he gave me the ropes. Look, if you're going to be an intern, you better be the best intern possible. You're not just going to go get coffee. You need to learn the ins and outs of the business. You know, he was tough on me, but it was what I needed. He showed me everything I needed to do to become a producer, a good producer. To see familiar faces, and several people help out, but to have someone that will take you in as a novice and help you understand the actual business and not the glamour and glitz that you think it is significant. And you know, I'm just thankful for Anzio and all my mentors who brought me in and showed me the ropes at the young age when I thought I knew what the business was about.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't really have a mentor coming up. They just kind of throw you to the wolves in print journalism. They just tell you to go out to the field, get the story, come back, and you know your editors ultimately become your mentors, showing you what not to write, how to write, and stuff like that. But I will shout out Charles Whitaker at Northwestern University.
Congratulations to him. He's the dean now.
There you go.
This week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He was one of the directors of the program. He was the director of the program that I was in grad school at Northwestern, and he showed me the ropes.
Okay.
He taught me how to be a professional.
Okay.
Whereas before, you know, yeah, the idea of being a journalist is not that glamorous. You're out there sweating, getting quotes, chasing stories, but there's also a professional element to it that I was lacking at the time. Which I think NABJ and TABJ is really good at teaching young people and upcoming journalists how to also be a professional. It's not just about being the best writer, but how to represent yourself to the larger industry. You know.
So Earl, I always joke about you have the smartest show in sports.
Yeah.
Because like there are two engineers, like
Right.
especially when you first started, it was two engineers,
Right.
a Princeton economist,
Yes.
and two lawyers.
Yeah, but
You're doing a sports show.
right. So the common
And laughing the whole time.
Yeah, because the common theme there is
So
sports.
how did you even think about it?
Well, sports is a common theme there because everybody, we're all fans, right?
Right.
Regardless of what disciplines that we come from. So everybody has their team. They have their favorite player. You can start an argument right now between the four of us, Michael Jordan or LeBron. We'll be talking forever about that topic.
Right.
Because we gravitate to that particular sport and that energy behind that. But you're right. We were unique in the sense that we all had interesting professors. I'm a former I remember Kevin, Verizon, Bill Murphy. He's radio executive in sports. Went to Princeton. Then we had Brendan, who was went to Howard University Law School. So,
Mr. Research.
Yeah, Mr. Research. I gave him that name. So, but now it's just Kevin and I, and we have Jasmine, who's from Georgia State, who actually majored in journalism. She's the only one on the show that has a background in this thing, but she does a great job. And we talk about the people that kind of inspired us, got us going. Harry Lyles, a guy out of Atlanta. Mm-hmm. Harry Lyles is known in the industry, in the radio industry. He was the consultant for Foxy and 97.5 here locally forever, and that's how we met. Because back in the day, I used to be a developer of websites during my engineering days. I used to have Fosse 107 website, and Harry and I met. And he said one day, man, one day, you know what? Since you know all these people, you should be on the radio with your own sports talk show. So he's been my personal consultant since 1999.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So each one of us has people that have either pushed us along, pulled us along, or just like slapped us in reality. So what are some of the skill sets that you started with, but then you realized you had to, what are still skill sets you had to add?
Writing, for my business, for television, writing is number one, and it's just practicing. It's the producers at several of my internships. I did 3. Just nope, wrong, right? And you think you know how to write, and then you learn how to write. And for TV, it's speaking conversationally, and that was difficult. I thought I was a good writer, but when your scripts get rejected over and over again, you learn, oh wait, I'm not as good as I thought I was. So it's just, becoming just a master at your trade with writing every day, writing from what you see on the newspaper and taking that and making it a 30-second, 25-second script. It's talent to write conversationally in short, clear and concise sentences, as my old news director used to say.
Right.
So even so more recently, as the industry has changed and we've had to pivot. The popular phrase has been pivot to video. Right now, I'm not only having to write as a print journalist, I have to write for video. I have to write scripts now. Now I have to write for the internet. Blog writing is so much different than journalism, than writing for a print newspaper. Having to learn how to do that, having to learn how to write in a marketing tone, because now some of these articles are paid articles and they want you to sort of sell whatever you're writing about, and so you have to switch your tone sometimes. And so just learning how to switch tones was something that I had to learn very recently, because before I was just writing straight, reporter language. So
with me, it was very interesting because we had at one time four voices at one time. That's very difficult to navigate that around certain topics. Giving each one of them,
especially the 4 you had.
I know everybody wanted their equal time, but and make sure you balance that amongst the people you're on. So I was the leader, so I had to make sure I kind of be fair about that. And sometimes feelings get hurt. A lot of people get a little sensitive about those kind of things, but I had to learn that level of skill. Also, context, and resetting the clock. If you turn on the radio show at 8 o'clock, you may have no idea what we're talking about. You may turn it off and turn it back on at 8:30. You got to reset your conversation and kind of paint the picture for the listeners. And now the people that's watching as well on live stream and on television, you got to kind of reset the context of what you're talking about. So I had to keep learning that. A lot of people say, you guys laugh a lot, you have a lot of fun, but we have to keep that within that window,
right?
The topic of that conversation, to make sure that everyone knows what you're talking about. So I had to learn that a lot. That took me a while to get that skill set. Yeah.
It's controlled, right? Even though it may seem chaotic, it's controlled.
Chaotic control, controlled chaotic. Yeah, it's just, and that's something that it takes a while to make that happen, because you start hearing from your listeners too, like, what are you guys talking about? They're like, I get text messages or on Twitter or on Instagram, like,
I've sent them one.
Yeah, you probably sent several now. Think about it, but that's something you have to keep in mind. What's going on at 8 o'clock may be different than going on at 8:11. You have to reset each time when you do that.
So, we talked about kind of like the nuts and bolts, but this is really about, and Eric kind of summed it up, the representation part. Just like when you came along, how many of the people that were pulling, pushing, guiding you looked like you?
In that newsroom, that looked like me. Wow.
And the other part of that question is, was that even important to you?
Oh, it's very important. You want to see diversity. Diversity of thought is important. It's not the end all be all, but yes, you want it. If you're having discussions on what's being covered, you want to be able. You don't want to. I don't want to be the lone representative of all of the black people in Raleigh, Durham market.
Right.
my experience may be different than another black male's experience.
Right.
So you want as much diversity as you can, and yes, it is important to see some familiar, quote unquote, familiar faces, and it's rare. It really is rare to see black men behind the scenes, behind the cameras, and we need more. You try to, as someone did for me, when you see the intern, you want to help them out and say, hey, look, I'm not going to tell you how, my way may not be the blueprint, but I could kind of guide you and help you out. If need be, I'm here for you.
Now you have a title that not a lot of us have, executive producer.
Mm-hmm.
Explain that and how, because I met you back when you were a producer at my alma mater at WTVD,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I got my earned my EP stripe. So for you, you're at a statewide platform.
Correct.
So explain the EP role that you have and why does it mean so much that you have it?
It's important because not only am I controlling a show, I'm controlling several shows that we do, that we broadcast to the state. And I'm in charge. I'm in the Raleigh newsroom. We have different newsrooms among Spectrum News, but to be able to control and have input on several shows is rather than just one show. As a producer, my voice gets, what's going on in my head and my thoughts gets broadcast everywhere else, and I get to interview people. My boss Bridget has been very helpful in helping me grow. This is my first time being a manager, so I'm seeing it from a different perspective now, and she's given me the confidence to interview, conduct interviews to decide who determines who comes into our newsroom. That's powerful. That's something that.
Speaking of power, you mentioned Bridget.
Mm-hmm.
Just share with
black female news director.
From where?
She came from the Tampa market.
Right.
From Tampa market, and she's just a wonderful person. She's another mentor. She's there's times in your life when you need some people in your life, and when you're kind of at a crossroads.
Your time.
Right.
Yeah.
And she's been here for 4 or 5 months.
Right.
And it's changed my world. So it's that mentorship that I'm always appreciative of, because again, you see us as producers. There's several, especially female producers behind the scenes, black female producers behind the scenes. Black male producers are few and far between, so we'd like to see more.
So we need more of you out there to come join this rank right here, the producer rank. I'm sorry, I just get that in there.
No, that's the message. That is the message.
But I want to go back to Eric, because I love it I love the fact you're the one that brought up representation, and you brought it up while you were in Kansas. I was just in Shawnee Mission at DeSoto High School watching my nephews graduate. They'll be going to A&T, by the way.
All right.
But you came up on the print side, which is a lot of people still think of print as the traditional whatnot. But your skill set has allowed you to be able to go across all these platforms.
Right.
In a very, very intensely competitive genre, which is the cultural part.
Right.
So, can you talk about your development in that space?
In that space, so there was a time where, especially in this area, there were about 5. Well, you can count the number of black journalists on your hand. Right. And a lot of that was because, like I said, it's not glamorous. You're not holding a camera. You're not on a screen. And so some of that stuff, some people are reporting. They're down at City Hall reporting. And so a lot of that stuff is kind of boring, right? And so I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be a beat writer. I didn't want to write about politics and cover all of that. So getting into entertainment and writing about culture was especially important for me, because I wanted to tell our stories. I wanted to make sure we had people in those spaces telling our stories, and not, some white kids writing about hip hop, right? Because that was happening when I first moved here.
I remember.
There was a young white woman writing about hip hop, and I was reading it. I was like, nah, I want her out of here.
Wow.
But because I feel like I could tell the stories better. I feel like we could tell the stories better. And so that eventually happened. And now at the newspaper that I'm at and other newspapers in the area, it's kind of hard being the only one there because you feel like you're the token. Because if there's a black story or if there's a hip hop story or a jazz story, they're always calling you, hey, can you write this up? Yeah, don't y'all have any other black writers though that can help me cover this stuff? And we don't. We got a couple more now, but we always haven't. And I've had to do a lot of this by myself. And while it's been rewarding, it's also been kind of lonely. And I wish I had more people interested in that kind of work, which, like I said, is not glamorous. You know, first of all, it's a craft. You gotta know how to write.
Right.
And you gotta become an expert in these fields. You can't just walk in here not knowing
You have to do that research.
the genres
exactly.
and the history. And so that's important, and there's just not a lot of people who can do that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
When you talk about representation, my mind was just flowing about 4 or 5 examples. I think about being. I think about being at the Final Four, where there's about 3,000 journalists there, 3,000, and probably 15 that look like me. It's amazing. And then oftentimes we're going to the locker room and we're the only ones there, Kevin and I. But I would say this though, the African American brothers, they'll look out for us often because they recognize that we're the few in there that's trying to get that story, and they always look out for us. And I think that's important. But I also think we need to have more of that.
Right.
Every Final Four, every Super Bowl, a group of us get together. C.L. Brown, who you probably know, some other guys. Chapel. All of us at a particular big event. There's a couple of people that host us. They'll bring us together and they'll make sure that we kind of talk through these kind of things. All journalists, are print, TV, radio, doesn't matter. We all get together and have those conversations. Right now, I say this and people are like, you got to be kidding me. If you look at Kevin and I doing morning drive,
Right.
on a sports talk show, we are one entity in the entire country. The African American hosted sports talk radio show anywhere in these 50 states, and that's ridiculous when you think about that.
You're the only ones.
Doing the morning drive.
Morning drive.
And I've been saying this for the last 3 years since we've been doing morning drive, which is ridiculous when you think about it. But we have responsibility. That's why we encourage people. We bring a lot of African Americans. Lately, there's been a bunch of females to come on and work with us. Because my thing is that if we get the opportunity, why can't we give them an opportunity as well? We should. This is our obligation. This is where it should be.
I remember I used to write about Duke basketball, so I used to go to all the home games and report for Indy Week. And I remember being in that media room, and I remember at one time it was just me, CJ, and Bomani in there, and it was about 50 other reporters in there, and I'm like, this is crazy. And this is basketball, and there's only 3 brothers in here reporting. Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a couple more now because we're there now, but it's not many. Yeah. It's really not many that's covering these stories, and it's kind of ironic. I told Jim Goodman one time when we was pitching to be on Capital Broadcasting, majority of the high-end sports like football and basketball are dominated by African Americans, but there's not many African Americans talking about it or writing about it or reporting on it.
That's true.
Isn't that interesting?
Did they give you the whole line about who the audience was? Did they try to run down the audience demographics?
I can't remember that, but they probably did. but you heard the story before, I take it.
I heard that story, but I've heard it from other especially sports people.
Yeah.
Sports journalists and sports producers and sports content creators about how they, when they go to try to pitch something, and the way they pitch it is like, well, that's not appropriate for the audience, and it's the business side of it that sometimes gets thrown in our faces. So let me just throw this out there.
Okay.
How are analytics impacting the way you approach whatever it is you do, and also, going back to the after you talk about that, tie back to the representation, if at all, because if you're having to deal with analytics. Now, how do we know? I mean, we have a way to try to track down who's watching what, when, how long. I mean, we have all that information now.
But you know, in my game, that's crucial in terms of. Just had a conversation yesterday because we were talking about the strength of the channels that we're on, 99.3 and 96.5, the number of people we reach, and we got some data back saying that majority of the people that hear us, well, 35% of the people that listen to us on our app, TuneIn Radio, and other forms of digital.
Right.
So terrestrial is great, but 35% of the people
That's significant.
that's engaging is on those other platforms. So data is very, very important. We understand that. That's why we talked about more of the social media stuff that we're doing with videos, things of that nature. That's very important. So we take that in consideration when we try to program and try to plan our day.
Numbers, all our businesses is numbers game,
Yeah.
right? It's all about viewers. So that comes into the everything we do, every decision we make, coverage wise, teasing, it's all about numbers, about demographics.
Right.
And again, it just becomes, as Eric said, it becomes about representation. You know, we watch TV as well. You know, we watch the same television screens that the majority watches, right? So we're interested in the same stories. We are all similar. We all care about crime. We all care about our safety. But you know, you slice and dice numbers and do all of that. But it is a numbers game. So you just want to make sure, again, diversity of thought. Our stories aren't just black story. You know, black stories isn't just crime. You know, our black stories is about education as well, right? We have diversity. We are normal people. We are not just worried about gunshots. And it just to be able to tell that story that, yo, my kid goes to school, goes to the same schools you guys goes to. I drive the same roads that you drive. I'm not an alien.
Yeah.
You know.
It's like there was a story you had on this morning. You interviewed a young lady. Your reporter interviewed a young lady, and it was about Fidelity paying off helping their employees pay off their student loans.
Right.
And the numbers they gave were for the entire workforce, but the young lady that your reporter interviewed was a black female. So I thought that was interesting because I was like, okay, somebody is being sensitive, and you know, it was just a different kind of thing because normally it'd only be one person, and it would be somebody that didn't look like us, and the numbers wouldn't even come close to touching anybody. So
Right.
That tells me that representation matters in your newsroom anyway.
Correct.
And I know because I've read articles from Eric, and also not just the articles from Eric, because his articles impact the way other people are going to cover things too, because one, you work there and you've been there for a minute, and I'm guessing they don't really want to hear you come at them.
No, they don't. But
I brought that up because our presence, all of our presence, not just like black male, but the representation part, it matters to have that diversity of thought, not just the diversity of color.
Right. And I've been told this, I've been asked about this, but one thing that I do worry about, and you talked about us being more than just crime and the prison industrial complex and things like that, but a lot of our cover stories are only about people of color and their problems.
Right.
Right, and what kind of legal problems that they have going on, and that does bring traffic to your online site. So sometimes I worry that they only use these stories to bring attention, and they don't talk about the happy stuff, right? They won't put a lot of the entertainment stories on the front, or have it highlighted on the website. So with saying that, it used to be a lot about analytics with print journalism, and I think that they figured out that it was less about page hits and more about subscribers. So a lot of newspapers have sort of switched their model. They still have these walls up, right? But they're trying to get more subscribers now in the way of sort of maybe email newsletters and I guess, is paying for what you read now.
Yeah.
So that has impacted. But like I said, more. I've even had to cut my story length down because they're worried about people leaving the website pages too fast.
Yeah.
You know, so short attention span. So like, yeah, no one's gonna read these long format stories, which is what I went to school for, right? And so I want to write those stories, but you know, not anymore. People are not gonna stay on the page that long. They say.
It's true.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all the analytics kind of point to that.
Right.
Engagement is.
Yeah.
The engagement time is going down.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to get a question from one of the young men out here. Yeah, either one. Any of you. And also, it's you know this. Oh, by the way, if they're still live out there, not live no more. Okay, cool. Oh, YouTube live for NCCU. Yeah. Just want to point that out.
Okay.
Hello.
How you doing?
My name is Christopher Scott. I'm a mass comm major, senior at Central. So my question to y'all is, what is the most difficult part of being in the business? What is the make or break point to make y'all guys want to keep going and doing what you do?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Well, I don't get paid that much. So, you know, because of that, the hardest part is finding gigs, finding freelance contracts, finding people who want you to write stories for them. Like, that's the hardest part is hustling. But once you get into the groove and you start making connections and networking, it becomes rewarding. But the hardest part is the pay, for me at least, in print journalism. Yeah, because you have to work with many jobs at one time. Yeah.
My hardest part is getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, if I'm being honest. Each and every weekday morning. And also trying to create that energy early in the morning, trying to be on 10 when other people are not there. And that's kind of difficult when you're not on 10, but it's just having the energy to do that. The good thing about, in terms of the revenue model, the fact that we own our own show and we have in our contract that we can be in other cities as well in terms of syndication, that's the part that we're working on. That's been a little more difficult than I thought, but that's a way to really increase our level of revenue coming to our project. But creating the energy every morning, giving the time slot that we're in, that's difficult sometimes.
Eric said hustling. Just hustle. Stay on your grind. You know, keep it passion. You know, this business can wear you down. It can wear you out and wear you down. But you gotta keep hustling and you gotta not be complacent. You know, that was kind of one of my biggest flaws, was just getting complacent. Okay, I became a 6 p.m. producer at ABC 11. Should have strove for more, right? And just complacency can. Now I want to say it can be a burden. So just always hustling. Always realize that you could do more. Push yourself to become an owner of your own. You know, to be syndicated nationally for a show. Yeah, you know, you need to push. And strive for more. You know, we need more news directors. We need black male news directors, black female news directors, female news directors. Right? Go for that management's office. There should be no reason you're not a manager. You know, 3-4 years into the business. We need managers. We need upper management representation.
And that was one of the things that got me when I was first in the business. I had really good mentors like Paul Pope, Clarence Williams, Don Miller, Irvin Hester. But I also had this guy named Ploria Marshall who was one of the founders of NABJ.
Oh, wow.
And Ploria had an organization, in addition to being a founder of NABJ, the National Black Media Coalition. The National Black Media Coalition also pushed for management. It's great to be a reporter, an anchor, but how about being a producer, an editor, an executive producer, a news director? Matter of fact, we have a lawyer on staff that'll help you if you want to go buy a property. And that was the kind of push we had, and we're doing that in NABJ. So we want, you know, the kind of like the whole range. It's great to be on air making, like, you're in Chicago, New York, the major markets, making all that money, but also who's going to hire them? Who's going to be there to hire them? And that was what pushed me. I know when I was at TVD and going up the ranks, it was just, I had to push me. When I was at REL just getting started, it was Clarence Williams that walked around pushing me. But it all worked out because the people aren't going to work with you to help push you if they don't believe in you. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I think all of us, because Anzio, he tracked Larry and you for a long time. But we tracked Anzio, and other people tracked Anzio and touched Anzio, Paula Madison, Dave Williams. I mean, there was a whole bunch of people who helped all of us that are, especially through the NABJ family, that were examples to us. It was easier for us to be something because we saw it at a certain point. We saw news directors, we saw anchors in major markets, we saw managing editors, we saw division heads. Now we're seeing deans of the top journalism schools, like Charles at Northwestern. We're seeing people like Retha Hill, who used to be with the Washington Post, now at Arizona State, doing media innovation labs. I mean, we have people all around the country now that are showing us there's these other paths that we hadn't thought about. NABJ just went to Silicon Valley May 1st. First stop was Apple, their new headquarters. Wow. With our president and the staff from the office and some folks from around the country. And we went to all of those places. But we went to talk to them because when we were walking through some of those places, we were like, got any people look like us? And they found some. They found some. And they brought them out there. And it was cool because we started understanding that the new frontier is so far beyond just what we are talking about here.
That's so true.
But the bottom line is we all have to be ready. We all have to do, as Stephen Covey says, sharpen our sword. And we have to do that on a regular basis. It's not just a one-time thing. Because he's talking about we need more news directors, but you don't walk in to Spectrum News and go, I'm going to be the news director.
That brings me to my next and final question.
Cool.
So what gave you the desire to say, this is what I want to do specifically? Because, as college students, we want to do everything. Once we get into a major, we're like, okay, I can do this. And then maybe 2 weeks later or a month later, we're like, okay, I can do this too. What made you want to pinpoint that one thing and just go straight forward?
I'd say it happened then, and it's still happening now. When I saw my byline for the first time next to a story, when I saw my name next to a long story that I wrote, knowing that someone was going to sit down, expend their intellectual energy and read the words that I wrote, and I can keep on doing that, and people will keep on reading my stuff. That was rewarding for me, and that kept me going. Just throughout any of the bad sides of print journalism, like seeing my byline, like that was what kept me going day to day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year. Yeah, I mean, it feels good. Yeah.
I think, given the rarity where we are in this space, particularly radio, I think we have an obligation to keep going. I think people like yourself who maybe want to aspire to do the same thing, we have to make sure that we continue to grind and get better. And again, getting that, I guess, the admiration for a lot of people, or the people being very complimentary once they found out what we was doing and sent our name in the paper. My friend here called me up and just congratulated me on the opportunity. At the time, I didn't realize how big it was or how unique it was, but now I do. And having people continue to support us, it's important. That's why we have an obligation to make this right.
Yeah. And I want to say that, like, the first time I walked in and I was being interviewed by Paul Pope, and I'm sitting there thinking,
my God, yeah,
I'm being interviewed by this guy that looks like one of my uncles or my cousins at this station that is perennially number one. And then when I left there, I was interviewed by someone else who looked like me, who was from Philly, John Miller, but he hired me at a different station, and then I was mentored by another guy who looked like me. So it was like, for me, I'm truly blessed. I've had a lot of people who I could see that made me want to work harder, because they always let me know it was about the work, and you're only as good as the show that you just finished, and the one that you're working on. And that's the way I always approached it. And then when the other part that really keeps me going is I teach here now, as you know, but over the years it's been seeing like Carell, Eric, seeing this man here. I used to work for this man. Easy way.
Yeah, the technology company.
The technology company.
That's right.
I used to work for him too.
Oh, we all used to work for you.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, but it's just the whole idea of this is a family, it's a network.
Yeah.
And when we work together, this is a strong network. You know, this is a small network here, but it reaches out to NABJ and possibly BDPA and all these A's, all these associations, but all these professional networks and community networks. Because one of the biggest things that, and this is kind of off the journalism tip, but one of the things that Earl was part of was when EasyWeb was out, one of the first community computer labs. Yeah. Actually, I think you were the first community.
Yeah, we were in Durham, and we did like 4 or 5 along with Rodney Rogers with us at Maduga Terrace. Darryl Green, former NFL player for Redskins. We did Cornwallis Road. We did another one, Oscar Manor, with another athlete. Yeah. So the first time, actually the one in Maduga Terrace was the first time they had internet in any library system in the city of Durham. Right. They had a library branch over at Maduga Terrace. But let me jump on one thing. You said networking. I think, and I just want to lead you with this thought. I always say network is my net worth, and what I mean by that is, I couldn't have done the radio thing without having people I can pull upon, athletes, other guys that start in different sports, if I didn't have that network. This guy has a huge network. Everybody up here on this table have a huge network. That is how you're going to get to the next level. So always create those networking skills allow you to know people. Everybody says, man, you know everybody. Well, that's not by accident. You have to work on that. And it helps you get you to the next level. And that's what I pride myself in. I don't have to know everything. I might know somebody that does, though. Yeah. And that allows me to keep doing what I want to do. So I will leave you with that.
And I'll add this to the networking part. Yeah. Networking is not what you take away; it's what you bring to the table. Yeah. Even as a young man like yourself, is if you're prepared. That's what you bring to the table because now you can do something for someone. Yeah. That's why they compensate you. And if you understand that part, you'll always, you like Eric Hustle because people are going to hire him and bring him on board because he has a skill that they need. Right. And so they're going to compensate him for that. So that once you understand that part, the rest becomes just work. Yeah.
I would say make sure, take opportunity now in your last year to figure out what you want to do and go after it. If you're in school, no matter what field you want to go into, look into how you could start owning your business and start using YouTube, using Twitter, using Instagram to your benefit as well. Make your own business, just start. My old EP, my first executive producer said, control your own destiny. Yes. And that, the older I get, it changes definition. But take advantage of the 401k programs, invest your money. But work hard. Hard work will pay off no matter what you do. Hard work pays off. Yeah, smart work pays off. Like for NABJ, they had the short course where I met Mr. Anthony Wilson, and to work with Anthony, I was afraid of him for 2 years of college, and then I learned that he was just the most nice guy when I started working with him. I remember short course to this day. So take advantage of NABJ. They're here for you. They're here to help you out. They will make sure they will help you succeed as long as you're ready to put in the hard work. There are several people connected. It's such a small world. Who knows who? Just reach out to people. Don't be afraid to reach out to people. That's what everyone is here for. Yeah. I didn't get here by myself. You're not going to get to where you get to by yourself. So reach out to people. People want to help you.
Yes. Especially if you're prepared.
Yeah. There you go.
Thank you. Guys, this has been great. I'd like to give y'all a last word of something that maybe you want to share that I didn't ask, so we can wrap it up because we want to respect everyone's time out there too.
Time. Have fun. Life is short. Have fun. Do what you love, and don't do it for the money. Do what you love, and money's important. Money is really important, right? You need to pay the bills, but have fun doing it. If you do what you love, all the cliches, I could give you all the cliches, but work hard, have fun. I'm thankful for this opportunity. I'm thankful for Mr. Chambers because he's always had an open door policy.
Thank you.
I'm not at Central. I'm not an Eagle, but you know what?
But
I feel comfortable here.
We appreciate you coming over and hanging out.
Right. I'm not perfect, right? But and this is what it's all about. It's just about gathering. I'm meeting Eric. I read his work. I'm like, man, okay, now I get to put a face to what I see on paper. Mr. Earl, I see him, I hear him, I listen to him on the work. I get ideas, story ideas that come around. I'm like, oh man, what they just said, my short-term memory. All right, I gotta say that in my phone. That's a good conversation starter. It's a small world. It really is a small world. It's good to see faces behind names.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. As a writer, writing is a very lonely profession, but I want to encourage every upcoming writer out there to collaborate with people in their community for different things. I've collaborated with two people on the stage so far in my career, and it's led me here and to other opportunities. So collaborate. There's a historically black-owned newspaper down the street. Right down the street. And if all the black writers in the Triangle would collaborate together, we can make that newspaper probably what it needs to be, right? But it hasn't happened yet.
Right after this show.
But there's potential for that.
No, seriously.
Right?
Yeah. Because I think just with these four folks that are on the stage, we can go down there and make a difference.
Right. Yeah.
And I think he'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have him on next time.
Yeah.
That sounds like a winner. Wow, as I sit here, you guys said everything I would wanted to say. The only thing is that I would leave you with this. I'm sitting thinking about, I was an IBM executive, I came to create my own little company as an entrepreneur. How in the world I end up at a sports talk radio show? And
not just a sports show, but a good one.
A good one, and owning it too as well. My point is that your path may change a little bit, but keep focused on what you want, and you end up there. The last thing I would say is that part of our show, and I say this every time I have a chance to talk, community is a big part of what we do.
Yes.
We try to create a platform to bring some light and daylight, a lot of things that people do in the community. And if we do that, I think we've done our job. We just recognized 21 individuals for Salute the Champions. Salute the Champions is a big deal that we do, identify individuals that have done some great things. Maybe these two guys will be on the next, because this guy was part of our first class of recipients.
And I was honored.
In 2018.
Yeah, and then I had to call her like, hey, can I come to the next one? Do you not read your email?
So my point is that we have a platform where we try to encourage our people to continue to work well in the community, and we're going to make sure we do the same thing.
I want to
thank you, Brett.
Hey, man, I want to thank you fellas for coming. I want to thank the people here at North Carolina Central University, especially Ms. Felicia Casey Hicks in the control booth. Also to the faculty and staff here at North Carolina Central University and the the Department of Mass Comm, Ms. Brenda Shaw, and also Ms. Lakeisha Sykes, because they're the ones that helped make this new studio possible. And
really nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we appreciate that they allowed us to come in and do this important conversation in this new place, in this new space that's being done at an HBCU, so that these kind of messages can get out. So I'd like to say thank you to my colleagues here at North Carolina Central, and thank you to all of you who watched this online. And we're gonna replay this later and put it back up online so you can see it again. Thank you all. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, man.
Fade to black.
That's great. Good job.
Great job, y'all.
Great job, man. Good
All right, social media director.